Are Arizona basketball's weaknesses something that is correctable, or is this just who Arizona basketball is?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on your team every day. All right, Arizona basketball has put together a pretty nice season overall, and there's been a lot of good things to talk about here. You're probably looking at a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, maybe higher, who knows. But at the same time, Arizona has also shown some very frustrating aspects to this season, which we're going to talk about. We're also going to get you a talk about some of the great things about this squad, and we're also going to talk about Utah, the preview, and a look ahead. But let's talk about some of the things, and we have been talking about this pretty much all season now, and it's something that is frustrating. Arizona is a squad that shoots itself in the foot way, way too much, and this has been going on pretty much all season. So and we're going to talk about it. First of all, the needless turnovers. Yes, everybody knows Tony Padilla is not a good official. As we've talked about a million different times, if people know who you are, then you're probably not very good at what you do. That is just that's a problem. He is not good. There's really no way around that. He is not good at what he does. He makes things about him. I understand that. But at the same time, I think you've also got to be able to sit here and say that this is there are bigger problems at play here. And the first one is you gave up 94 points at home to BYU. Or 96 points. Arizona scored enough points to be able to win that game. The problem is you're giving away way too many opportunities for the other team, and that has got to stop. The first thing is the turnovers. And again, this has been something that's been going on all season. Now, I do think with the turnovers, some of that is that you've got one ball handler on the team, and that's something that is a little bit. That's just not good enough. And I think Tommy Lloyd knows at the end of the day that he messed that one up. But so you got one ball handler. Excuse me, just thinking about this is making me sneeze. So you got one ball handler, but that doesn't explain, though, the cross-court passes. Arizona absolutely has to lead the world in cross-court passes that go the other way for pick sixes. That just, again, it's these aren't dead ball turnovers. These are ones that are going back the other way each time. Those have to stop. I don't know how else to put it. Those have to stop, and I don't know that you really look at this team and say that it's going to stop. The other one, too, is the passes, just the lazy passes at the top of the key. And everybody does it. Caleb Love's in his 5th year in college. Caleb Love still does that all the time. KJ Lewis does it all the time. Even Jaden, and Jaden does it as well, where you're just kind of like, what were you looking at there? And again, it's something that I don't know that we're really breaking any news here that's the issue, but that is the issue. And Arizona's got to do something about it. 10 turnovers led to 22 BYU points. That's your game, period. You've got to clean that up. I guess my question is, we're 4 games out from the NCAA tournament, and we're still talking about the exact same issue, or the Big 12 tournament, and we're still talking about the exact same issue. At what point you just kind of wonder, are you just kind of who you are? And that's going to be interesting to see. Carter Bryant's another one. I give Carter Bryant a little bit of a pass, mainly because Carter's a freshman and he's going to get much better, obviously. But Carter is good for 2 or 3 just real head-scratching plays per game where you're like, what the heck was that? I think the play against BYU where Arizona, it was basically a 5-point swing where he just throws the ball to midcourt and the BYU player takes it, comes back the other way, and launches up a 3. And well, the rest is history at that point. Things like that, they just happen. Then you got silly fouls as well that just at some point you're like, what are we doing out here, guys? And when I mean silly fouls, I mean really silly fouls. Like you've had fouls this year where, I mean, we'll start with Carter. And again, I don't want to beat up Carter because Carter, again, he's going to be really, really good. He is a freshman, great kid, great family. Going to play in the NBA, going to be a starter for a long time. But Carter and KJ are both kind of hackers in that they just kind of slap at the ball. And a lot of times these fouls are fouls that have absolutely nothing to do with the play. And I think that's what's frustrating is that you're not challenging somebody at the apex of the rim. You're not doing any of that. You are just making kind of a boneheaded foul. And a lot of times they're 28, 30 feet from the basket. And those got to stop. KJ Lewis absolutely leads the nation in 3-point fouling 3-point shooters. There's got to be 7 or 8 of those on the season. Tommy Lloyd's been asked about that, and he says that, well, and he's right. He says KJ's positives outweigh his negatives. Agreed. Totally agree. But, when you're at this stage, though, I think you're also hoping that that's really not the case, that you don't have to worry about, the positives outweighing the negatives and things like that, because, again, it's, Arizona shouldn't be lumped in that, in my opinion, where you're saying, well, you know what, he's better than what the deficiencies are. This is Arizona basketball. This is a different realm. So, again, those are some of the really tough issues. And then I think what's frustrating is you see this team, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. This is a tough team. This is a team that is fun to root for. I love watching this basketball team because it kind of feels like it's kind of you're watching just kind of like the evolution of a person in public or whatever, where it's just kind of like, well, there's going to be times where you look really, really good. There's going to be times you look really, really bad. But it's just frustrating from an Arizona perspective. I think this is going to kind of be who they are. Again, it's kind of that phrase, and I'm certainly know this way: a fool at 40, a fool for life. And that doesn't that probably speaks to me more than most people. I live that motto, but it. You just kind of think at this point, is this kind of just who you are? And I think that is the concern, that this is probably just kind of who Arizona basketball is. But because if there wasn't, you would have a lot different record at this point. You would probably be something like, I can't do the math in my head right now, but you'd probably be more like 24-5 as opposed to, 18-9, whatever the case may be, just because you wouldn't be, kicking away some games. And that's, I think that's the frustration, with Tommy Lloyd. I mean, I know he works on it, because you can see there will be games then where Arizona will step back in and they won't do those. And then they just kind of revert back to what they're doing. And it's like, what are we doing here? You guys are good dudes. It's not like you don't know how to play basketball. Why are we having these same issues? And only really Tommy Lloyd knows that one. So that's something that you got to keep in mind. Now, this team, though, like I said, we just spent some time beating them up. This team does have a lot of really, really good things going for it as well. And the weird thing about it is you can kind of pinpoint it all together, to be honest with you, because as hard as this team generally plays, that's also some of the reasons too that I think some of these plays end up occurring. But first, Prize Picks. March Madness is here, everybody. March Madness is here. Prize Picks is pretty much where it's at. Here's the deal. And there's no better place to get in on the action with Prize Picks, and the best place for fantasy sports. Here's the deal. With Prize Picks, you can you pick more or less on at least 2 player predictions, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. 1,000 times. I know a lot of people that do this, and it's really, really fun. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. Like for an NBA idea here, let's say Anthony Davis is over 12 rebounds and Jaylen Brown's over 27 points, and you're like, you know what? I like the over there. I like the under there. Combine them, and you could make a lot of money. Here's the deal, though. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Again, Prize Picks, a lot of people are using Prize Picks. You don't have to necessarily say, okay, well, I need this team to win or I need this team to win. You're looking at it as from a player point of view, and you're saying, you know what, I got a little bit of an idea here. I think I can do my own thing. Check it out at Prize Picks. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on, your team every day. All right, now, we just talked about some of the things that are very frustrating about Arizona basketball and about how, they go about and you're like, what are we doing out there? But watching this team, though, they play hard and they don't give up. Honestly, it's my favorite team of the Tommy Lloyd era. Is it going to be the best team? Who knows? I mean, you got to remember Tommy Lloyd, since he's been here, is at a 1 seed and 2 seeds. So Arizona's not going to be one of those. But could it be a team that does get to the Sweet 16 Elite 8? I think it is. It's a like I said, it's a flawed team, but the first thing is they play hard. Everybody out there, and we've talked about this before, there's no real weenies. Last year, you had some guys where you're like, when the chips were really down, did you really want them on your team? And give you an idea. And even the year before. And it starts at that point guard position. Kylan Boswell was not somebody that you wanted really on your team. He wasn't a winning basketball player. His priorities were definitely in other places. Kirk Risa talked a lot, did a lot of talking. But at the end of the day, wasn't really that good of a basketball player. And he was somebody that other teams picked on. Just is what it is. This team doesn't really have those guys. This team is a fairly tough team. And again, they play hard. It feels like this team too. You're never in a game. You're never out of a game. And I think that's kind of the MO. You can give up huge leads, but you can give up huge leads. You can also come back from huge deficits because they D up, they get down transition, they score the basketball. They do a lot of different things. This is a squad, though, that is, they play hard. And I think kind of the lightning rod for this entire team is Caleb Love. I mean, what you see is what you get. Last game, Caleb Love he did not play good defense. Now, again, for a good percentage of this season, he's played really, really good defense. But he did not play great defense this past game. But offensively, he was the one that kept Arizona in the game. Made a huge three, then got probably shouldn't have been an and one, but could have been an and one. He also made some huge free throws and with Caleb shooting free throws in a crunch time situation, I am totally cool with that. But he's a flawed basketball player. Again, guys that are in their 5th year in college, there's something that's keeping them back from the NBA, and with Caleb, it's not like a lack of athleticism or anything like that. It's just there's just kind of, sometimes there's just, spots where you just mess up. And that's kind of him. KJ Lewis, kind of the same way. But I want Caleb Love on my team. I know some people don't like Caleb Love. I don't care. They're wrong. I want Caleb Love on my team. I want KJ Lewis on my team. KJ Lewis is an incredibly underrated facilitator in that he can get into the lane. He makes good passes. He does a lot of really, really good things with the basketball. He can finish at the hoop. He can't shoot at all. I get that. But he can also, and he's generally a really, really good defender. The problem though with KJ is that, again, you're just gonna, the shooting isn't there. It's a really, really loose ball handling situation. And, again, he's going to do some really silly stuff out there, but you still want him on your team because he's good. So it's that phrase, you pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other end of the stick. And that's just kind of where it is. But both those guys are good. Both those guys are legitimate high-level starters on any Division I basketball team. I can say the exact same thing about Jaden Bradley as well. Jaden Bradley makes winning plays. Listen, there's been some games, especially of late, where I'm kind of worried that Jaden Bradley's wearing down to a certain degree, but Jaden Bradley makes winning basketball plays, and that's, at the end of the day, that's kind of what matters in all of this. Are you a winning basketball player? Jaden Bradley is a winning basketball player, but again, he's flawed as well. He'll probably be in college next year because, yes, he was a 5-star kid, but he can't really shoot, and he's not necessarily a natural distributor. So, and then you look up front, it's much of the same. Although I wouldn't really put all of that on it, Tobe Awaka has turned out to be a stud. I mean, Tobe Awaka, pretty much every single game, he's going to give you a double-double. So if I were to tell you that before the season, you'd probably take that. Henry Vasar is much the same way. The problem, though, is that you've also got a guy in Townsend that just can't play at this level. It's just not good enough. He can't rebound. He can't can't really do anything. So he's a minute suck when he's out there, and it's just, it's not good enough. Carter, we've already gone over Carter, but this is a team that can win a lot of games, and come NCAA tournament time, they can definitely beat teams that are better than them because of how they play. And as a matter of fact, I kind of think that they will beat some teams. I think they will have a few surprise games in there where you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I did not see that one occurring. That's where it's going to be interesting to see how this season does play out, because I could definitely see that being the case with this squad. But again, it's also going to be a team where you just got to basically buckle up at that point. Now, looking ahead, then you've got some really tough games remaining. You got Utah tomorrow. Utah is a game that Arizona should absolutely win. Utah just fired their coach. This is not a very talented team. This is a team that Arizona is basically better than across the board. Arizona should win this game by 20-something points. That's just the way it is. Arizona should smack Utah. That game should be over before it starts. They're, like I said, Utah just not very good. So the Wildcats have to take care of business in that game, and they take care of business in that game, you're squarely in that 4 line. Looking forward, then it gets a little bit more difficult, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But with Utah, Madsen is a pretty good player. They got a couple decent shooters, but it's not really a team that you need to even break down that much. You just fired your coach for a reason. This is a game. It's at McHale. It's far more about what Arizona does in this game, and I think that Arizona is going to be able to step to the plate. What I would really hope happens is you get into some nice, you maybe get into a nice little rhythm before you check in on, before you get that before you get that Iowa State game coming up. This is basically going to be kind of a test drive, a rehearsal, be able to get everything going before you get to that BYU or that Iowa State game. But this is a game that Arizona should absolutely win. They're better across the board. They're better at every single position. Arizona should be able to beat them up down low. They should also be able to force them into a lot of turnovers, and I expect that to happen. I expect Arizona to take care of business in this game. Now, what does that mean, though, for the team for probably the most daunting game that's been on Arizona's schedule pretty much all season? Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Again, locked on your team every day. Okay, now, Arizona, then, I'm going to, again, and I know that this can get people into trouble. I get it. I'm going to assume that Arizona wins this game against a Utah, excuse me. And then going forward, I'm going to say that, you know what? I think they're going to beat, they got Iowa State going in there. I don't expect Arizona to beat Iowa State. I think Iowa State is one of the 5 best teams in the country. When Iowa State came to McHale, I came away thinking that Iowa State was better than Arizona. And you've got a starter back. That's obviously a concern for Arizona and Iowa State. Hilton Coliseum is one of the most difficult places to play in all of college basketball. It's probably a top 5, top 6 venue, and that team is loaded. Now, again, they missed a couple guys due to sickness, injury. I get all that, but if that team is fully a full go, then I expect them to win that game. Again, I think they're a little bit better than Arizona. I think Arizona's the 3rd best team in the Big 12. I think they're a little bit better than Texas Tech. I think that they are. And Iowa State and Houston, I think, are just a little bit, just better. Iowa State, though, is that team. Again, Arizona, I think, got a little bit lucky. Obviously, you got the Caleb Love full court shot. Then in overtime, they took over. But Iowa State did not play well that game. Now, you could say, conversely, Arizona didn't play that well that game, and you're right. Because, Caleb Love, until that full quarter shot, or that almost full court shot, he didn't play well. And then after that, obviously, he turned into Caleb Love. It was the entire Caleb Love experience. But Iowa State across the board is just a really, really good team. I mean, there's a reason that they were picked to finish, second in the Big 12, if I'm not mistaken. And, top 5, top 6, top 7 team in the country. I don't know that any of that has changed. Obviously, TJ Otzelberger is a very good coach. But Arizona is going to have to be able to bring it in this game. And they're going to, listen, if you do the dumb things that you've done before, you're going to you're going to end up on the wrong side of the you're going to end up on the wrong side of that, because in a place like that where the crowd gets going, a lead can go from 2 points to 15 points in no time flat. Arizona's got to bring its best game, and if it brings its best game, then it can possibly win. I don't expect that to be. But wanted to talk a little bit about that, though, just kind of where we're at, though, with these. Are these correctable mistakes? Are these things that this is just kind of who Arizona is? All of those, and I think those are all very, very fair questions, because again, it's a flawed basketball team. But it's a team that I've enjoyed watching. It's a team that I've enjoyed watching mature, and you can just tell too that their best basketball, they could go out early in the NCAA tournament. They absolutely could. They could win some games as well, but it's been a fun ride watching this squad. Okay, now we need to talk a little bit about Dwayne Aquina as well here. Dwayne Aquina, Arizona defensive backs coach, is going on to Texas. I have no problem with Dwayne Aquina doing this, because honestly, Dwayne Aquina should do what's best for Dwayne Aquina. Dwayne Aquina was essentially demoted. He was made the Arizona defensive backs coach after being the DC. I probably would not have done that, but it is what it is. And then guess what? A better job came open for Dwayne Aquina, in that he got the Texas Tech defensive backs job. I know this is a news flash. That's a better job than the Arizona one. And he's been at Texas many, many times before, or for many years, and he decided to take it. Guys like that, this is probably going to be his last stop. Guys like that like coaching high-level talent, and he's coached a lot of high-level talent. He's a great developer. We've talked about this before. He's probably the best defensive backs coach in college football history. If there is a better one, I would certainly love to see it. I do not believe that there is a better one out there. And, Texas took care of him. Texas said, all right, let's get you in here. And that's going to be I think it's, like I said, it's a good hire. I don't blame him at all. It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these players that Arizona brought in, because, again, they were coming back to play for Dwayne Aquina, but we will see. Getting paid more, it's a better job. I get it. No ill will. Dwayne Aquina is a Wildcat for as long as Dwayne Aquina will always be a Wildcat. What does this mean for the defense? It's obviously a blow, because I like having Dwayne Aquina in there as a, kind of as a sounding board, as somebody who can, some of the younger coaches, some of the other guys can kind of just, look at and say, hey, what'd you think about this? What'd you think about that? And I kind of liked him in the Danny Gonzalez partnership, but what's going on now? What does this mean for some of the other players? I get that question a lot. As far as the corners, I don't see the corners leaving, because again, with like a Javion Cole is coming here from Texas to start, most likely, because he wasn't good enough to play at Texas. It's a different animal. So I don't see him leaving. Marquise Groves-Killebrew, I would imagine he's going to be your other starting cornerback. Then on top of that, you've also got Traden Stukes. Traden Stukes is loved by this coaching staff. Traden Stukes is great. But, at the end of the day, will Traden Stukes follow him to Texas? I don't believe so, but who knows? Then up front, you've also got, or in the back, and Genesis Smith can play anywhere in college football. We've been over that. Genesis Smith is absolutely great. He can play anywhere he wants. And then you've also got not just Genesis Smith, but you've also got Dalton Johnson. He's another one. He's just a really good football player. I would imagine those guys all stay. Who knows? I would imagine those guys all stay, though. I could be wrong, but it's a blow. There's no doubt about it. It's a blow. Anytime you lose the best defensive backs coach in college football history, and you're at a school like Arizona, that's not a good thing. You don't want that to happen. So it is what it is. All right, now tomorrow we're going to be talking on the post-game show. We're going to be talking about Arizona, Utah. Hopefully Arizona has just gotten done beating the snot out of Utah, and you're looking forward to an Arizona. Maybe you could steal one at Hilton Coliseum. That's obviously not going to be an easy game, but that's kind of where we're at, though, with Arizona. You got to just take one game at a time, as you've seen. Keep in mind, if Arizona were to beat Utah, you'd still be 13-4 in conference play. It'd be a huge, that would be a very, very nice little feather in the cap to be able to beat them. And you want to get that double bye in the Big 12 tournament, where you only have to play a couple games. You don't want to have to play all these dangerous teams. You want to be in that top four where you can get that double bye and things become a little bit easier. Maybe you can make some magic happen. But on that note, though, Very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you tomorrow.